Ukraine has been striving for peace from the very first second of the war, stated the president of Ukraine during a meeting of the European Council. The only reason the war continues is Russia, and Ukraine is ready to take the necessary steps for peace, emphasized the head of state. The first such step, according to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is the need to ensure that Russia acknowledges the need to end the war.
This can be achieved through two types of ceasefire, which are easy to establish and control: the absence of attacks on energy and other civilian infrastructure, meaning a ceasefire regarding the use of missiles, bombs, and long-range drones, and the second, a ceasefire on water, meaning the cessation of military operations in the Black Sea. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, from a publication on the official website of the President of Ukraine.
The next step, according to the President of Ukraine, should be the establishment of basic trust. The foundation for this could be the release of prisoners. Any ceasefire is only the prologue to negotiations on establishing a comprehensive and just peace, emphasizes Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Furthermore, any negotiations regarding Ukraine's and Europe's security must involve both Kyiv and Brussels. To achieve long-term peace, Europe must be strong. The president is confident European troops repelling attacks. He welcomed the European Commission's initiative to rearm Europe.
Defense funds under this European plan must strengthen all parts of Europe, and I urge that a significant portion be allocated for weapons production in Ukraine. Our industrial capabilities are the fastest and most relevant, considering current security threats. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, from a publication on the official website of the President of Ukraine.
At the emergency summit of the European Council in Brussels, EU leaders discussed further support for Kyiv and the rearming of the European Union. To this end, they decided to raise an additional 800 billion euros. Part of the funds will be directed towards investments in Ukraine's defense industry. All EU members supported the decision except for Hungary.
What we're working on with the new instrument is to enable also our member states through the joint procurement to procure the necessary military capabilities that then can be given to Ukraine. Typical examples are a Danish initiative or the Czech initiative. So there are already established procedures to do that. But of course, with the backing now of 150 billion euros, where a certain share should go then as capabilities to Ukraine, this is also a big push forward to maintain the strength of this outstanding army.
Only a strong Europe can provide Kyiv with reliable security guarantees. Ukraine's partners are confident part of these guarantees should be a peacekeeping contingent that would ensure Russia fulfills the conditions of a future peace agreement.
Well, no, I wouldn't trust Putin, which is why I want a security guarantee. I wouldn't trust him not to come again because he's proven that he will come again. He's already done it. And we know what his ambitions are. But that is precisely why we need a guarantee to the deal. There's no point in a deal that falls apart after a number of months or years.
Europe must increase support for Ukraine until a peace agreement with security guarantees is reached, stated President of France Emmanuel Macron.
Nous devons continuer.
Peace cannot be achieved at any cost and under Russian diktat. Peace cannot be Ukraine's capitulation. It also cannot be put into a ceasefire mode, which would be too fragile. We have the experience of the past with such agreements.
The French president urged not to forget the failure of the Minsk agreements. The idea that first fire should cease and then negotiations for a full peace agreement should begin has failed twice, as noted by Foreign Affairs.
Minsk I in 2014 and Minsk II in 2015, both of which set out terms for a ceasefire and outlined steps toward a political resolution in the Donbass. These weak agreements were never properly implemented, and as Putin launched his 2022 invasion, he voided them outright. From a Foreign Affairs publication,
Russia repeatedly violated the terms of the agreements, reminded the president of Ukraine. In this way, the ceasefire agreements were violated by Moscow just 1 month after the signing of the Normandy Format Agreement.
We agreed that gas transit would continue in 2019. Secondly, we agreed on the exchange of all for all. For me, that was the most important. For them, it was gas. For me, it was people. And this is a fact because I wanted this humanitarian advantage so that there would be subsequent meetings leading to a sustainable peace. And third, a ceasefire. What happened? The gas contract was signed because it was necessary for them, and by the way, they knew all the details. As for the exchange, we made the first step and exchanged people. As for the ceasefire, they began killing us about a month later.
The US is considering several strategies to force Russia to end its war against Ukraine, stated United States Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia Kit Kellogg. One of these strategies is economic pressure. Donald Trump stated that he is considering imposing significant banking sanctions on Russia until a peace agreement is reached.
President Trump approaches diplomacy and engagements in a very transactional manner, with economics as the foundation and driving force behind international affairs in President Trump's America's first, quote, transactional diplomacy, end quote, model.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced that talks between US and Ukrainian delegations will take place soon. The Ukrainian and American teams resumed work, and we hope to have a substantive meeting next week, the president of Ukraine wrote on X social network. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
The United Kingdom has declared its readiness to deploy ground forces and aircraft to Ukraine if a ceasefire is reached. During a joint press conference with US President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Keir Starmer stated that, in his view, this is the only way to secure lasting peace.
The UK is ready to put troops on the ground and planes in the air to support a deal, working together with our allies, because it's the only way the peace will last. We must do the right thing. There can be no peace that rewards the aggressor. History must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader. Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Meanwhile, Ireland and Switzerland have also expressed their readiness to send troops to Ukraine. In addition, the Baltic and Nordic countries, as well as Germany and France, have agreed to contribute forces.
There is a general agreement that in order to guarantee the ceasefire, it will be necessary to have European troops in Ukraine, and UK, Germany and France are already willing to do that, but other member states of the European Union will contribute as well. Those troops will arrive after the ceasefire in order to guarantee that ceasefire is respected. But if we want this ceasefire to be respected, we need a US backup.
However, the US appears unlikely to guarantee military support for potential British peacekeeping forces in Ukraine in the event of renewed Russian aggression. According to Donald Trump, the UK troops in Ukraine will be able to take care of themselves. During the press conference, Prime Minister Starmer also announced that representatives from 18 European countries will gather in London to discuss, among other topics, a peace agreement for Ukraine. According to UK Prime Minister's office, the summit will build on the results of two emergency meetings held in Paris in mid-February, organized by French President Emmanuel Macron.
The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is using the summit to advance European action on Ukraine, signaling our collective and unwavering support for securing a just and lasting peace and a long-term agreement that ensures Ukraine's future sovereignty and security. From a report by the UK Prime Minister's office, AFP reports.
The upcoming extraordinary European Union summit on March 6 will also serve as a platform to discuss a potential peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is expected to represent Ukraine at the summit.
It is therefore important for us to exchange on how to further support Ukraine and on the principles that should be respected going forward. The EU and its member states are ready to take more responsibility for Europe's security. We should therefore be prepared for a possible European contribution to the security guarantees that will be necessary to ensure a lasting peace in Ukraine. From the invitation letter from European Council President Antonio Costa to summit participants.
The governments of the UK and France are working on a plan to deploy up to 30,000 soldiers in Ukraine. However, such a number is insufficient, according to Roman Kostenko, Secretary of the Parliamentary Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence. Ukraine is currently negotiating with partner countries to ensure that any future military contingent overseeing a potential ceasefire is not limited to protecting key infrastructure, but also patrols Ukraine's airspace and maritime zones.
We believe that if our partners and allies are discussing the possible deployment of these contingents to ensure long-term peace and security in Ukraine, it is entirely reasonable to also consider protecting Ukrainian airspace, particularly through patrols by our allies' aircraft.
Additionally, a spokesperson from Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs highlighted the need for an enhanced presence in the Black Sea, given that, according to Ukrainian authorities, Russia has not abandoned its intentions to disrupt freedom of navigation. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Valerian Kapelova, UATV News.